Oh, they both
Episode
work.
2.
They both work.
Huh?
They both work.
No way.
Yeah.
Bro, I don't know why. Like, maybe it's my X6 over there. I feel like I have so many problems with that thing. My guy, how we doing?
Doing great. Just got back from Turkey.
What was in Turkey?
Vacation. My family wanted to go somewhere different. We usually just go to the Caribbean, Mexico, and they were just like, let's go to Europe. My sister planned the whole thing. She's like really into, now that she has money, because like for a long time she was like dead broke, but now that she has money, she's like, oh, we can like do things. And my mom isn't going to be the one to like build it. So she built the whole itinerary and invited me over. So
What does your sister do?
she owns a trucking business,
Damn.
licensing trucks to Amazon. So
Damn.
So Amazon doesn't run their own trucks. They rent trucks from other companies. So she just it's like literally one of the biggest one of the smartest investments you can make. It's just a lot of work. But if you buy a truck or two, you can set up for Amazon. I think it's FBA or something. Amazon something.
That's some real 2023 internet shit.
Yeah.
How do you even get started doing that?
You just buy the truck and then you sign up on Amazon and then, create LLC, find people that are willing to, you can like obviously employ truck drivers, but just anyone can drive a truck.
Can you buy the truck and Amazon not agree to work with you and then you're just stuck with the truck?
I think so, but I don't know.
That feels terrible.
Right.
That would be all-time bad.
But trucks aren't that much. You can get a used truck for like $15,000. Like
a proper huge truck that you see like on the highway?
Yeah. And then cuz what you're buying is the mobile part. The crate you drive up to Amazon and they
supply the crate.
They load the crate cuz the crate is filled with stuff. So they
Oh.
just attach the crate to your truck. You have a truck driver and you drive down to wherever the fuck they need the truck to be.
Oh, that makes way more sense.
Mm-hmm.
How many people are in your family?
Like, I mean, it depends.
Bro, you went to Turkey. I don't know, like, what was the Turkey? I'm saying,
so
like, yeah.
how was it, like,
Yeah.
if you were the trip? It was just my sister, my mom, my grandma, me, and my girl.
Imagine you just go down the list of cousins.
I'm like, bro, what? And the thing is, some people do have a small family that they can just list off. Nah, not me.
Bro, you never know. So, where are you from, like, originally? Like, tell me, like, to people that don't know, like, give a little bit about your, like, backstory.
Yeah, I'm from New York City. I'm from the Bronx. Have to mention that. Can't just say New York City.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm Dominican. My family is from Dominican Republic. And yeah, I lived there for half my life. And then I went to boarding school for high school in Pennsylvania. Cause I was like a pretty smart kid, but I didn't want to like go to public school, to be limited to like my education. And I got the opportunity to go for like a scholarship to any private school that I wanted to, whether it was in the city or it was boarding school. And I was like, okay, let me do boarding school. So just cause like, why not? Like,
were you doing music like at any point in that?
No, I was doing YouTube videos. Like, I knew I could sing cause I always sang, but I was always shy to sing. I don't know if it's like a Hispanic thing, but like, or if it was like a singing is gay thing, like at a young age, or gonna get hazed by guys.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna do it, but I'm not gonna do it publicly. I'm gonna just do it, or I'm not gonna do it to my immediate circle. I'm gonna do it and let the world decide whether I'm good or not.
Was that the vibe in boarding school? Like, were you like scared that people thought it would be gay?
Not for boarding school. Prior to that, yeah, because in New York is very like in the Bronx is very hard. Everybody's like playing basketball and doing sports, and they have their sneakers. And I was like a skater kid that was so shit at sports, and I was just really good with girls. And I was like, I know if I sing it, like the girls will like it, but like I'm not just gonna sing to people. But I danced.
Oh shit.
I was known as a dancer, before boarding school. And then when I got to boarding school, there was a kid there, Savio, I'll never forget it. He was like, yo, like, I watched your YouTube videos. Because he knew me from New York. So he was like, I saw your YouTube videos on Facebook. You should sing more. And a couple girls were with him, and they were like, sing. So I go up to my dorm, I grab my ukulele, and I start singing in the school square. And more girls came, and I was like, whoa, this is like the thing. This is like, I should do this. So in boarding school, I was known as the singer. Like, I was like the poster child for like music at my school, which.
But were you writing your own music, or at that point it was just like covers?
It was just covers mainly. Like I did it for my own benefit. Like there was I was honestly looking back, the situation was so cool. We had like couple like those pianos everywhere. So I had a piano in every single one of my dorms. And I would just before school I would play. After school I would play. I would write my own songs there, but I would never perform them. But we had like a festival at the school called Go Fish in Java, which was really sick. And every year, all the kids would like sign up to perform, and we would hold this like a festival kind of thing, and everybody would pull up. So that would be my opportunity every year to like show off in school.
But that was all you doing it solo though.
Yeah. So the YouTube thing I kept doing because I was starting to gain some traction. It was hard with boarding school because it was hard to balance it because I didn't have like my room and like the setup. So it was just harder to do. And randomly, like I genuinely I think I only had like 10,000 subscribers, which like I guess at that time was a little bit more. But even now it's like
what year is this?
2015, 16.
Word.
15 actually. And I get a call or I get a DM on Instagram from a Sony Music representative, and he was like, yo, we're holding this audition, we're looking for dancers that can sing. And at first I was like, this is like, I've never done any audition in my life, like for anything. Like
Wow.
Music was just a passion that I was doing for fun, and I knew that I was good at it because I had the validation, but I wasn't planning on doing anything with music. Like I didn't even know where to begin. Like I just started producing for fun on like GarageBand I was on Logic because I cracked it, but I was just like doing it for fun, and I knew how to record myself because of the covers that I was doing on YouTube. So I was just like getting better, but just for my own personal goal and gain. And so when I told my parents about it, they were like, don't get your hopes up, and also like make sure it's real. So I had the dude, he called me, I was on a 2-hour phone call with him. I was like, you have to like show me that this is real, like that I'm not gonna get scammed.
Yeah.
So I made him like go around like the Sony office and take pictures of like people's desks.
That's a crazy request. I mean, I respect it. I respect it because I would do the same shit because I was getting like so many like fake like label emails back in the day, but the pictures of the office is hilarious. I was like,
send me your name tag on the office, show me the picture, like selfie, like
wow,
do it all because I need to know. And also my parents, like they don't know anything, like they have no idea of how to even manage this situation. So once it like got down to it, long story short, they invited me to New York City to do an audition, and there was like 70 dudes there who can kind of sing and who can kind of dance, and there were people there from like American Idol and from X Factor and from, I'm seeing these kids, I'm like, holy shit, like who am I in this room? And then like Simon Cowell walks in, and I'm like, okay, this is getting way more crazier. And finally they laid it down and said, we're looking for a boy band. One Direction's contract's up, we're putting a boy band together, and the rest was history.
So did you meet the other members of Prettymuch in that room, or
for 3 of them,
like in that room in New York City?
Yeah. Had
you already auditioned?
That was the audition. So basically the way it went down is the first day was like individual auditions. So they narrowed the 70 down to 16, and then the second day they broke us into mini boy bands, and I was in one boy band, and then there was another boy band that everybody else was in. They took one guy out of there and put me into that one, and then that was like the band, and it was 6 of us, and we were like, okay, sick, they were like, you guys are it, and I'm like, whoa, this is crazy, like I'm chosen, like it still doesn't feel real. After like a couple more sessions, flying into LA, flying back to New York, they took one guy out. Now it was 5. And then we were like, this is the band. And we're like, this is the band? Okay. Finally, February like 12th, my birthday, we're in LA, our last meet. We go and we do another round of like performing for Simon and doing the training thing. And then they take the last guy out and put Brandon in. And that day we met Brandon. A month later, we moved in together.
Holy shit, that happened fast.
Yeah.
Had you worked on any music together before you were officially a boy band?
No, it was like covers and like training, because they needed to make sure that we had it in us to do it, that we were talented enough and could progress, could take feedback. And also what I realized now looking back is they didn't want someone that was already on American Idol who was trained to be like on TV and was like, because that comes with a lot of like preconceived like just ideas, and just you're already trained for that. So like, you have to break out of that mold. We had no idea of how to even manage this kind of thing. So it felt raw. It felt like we were hungry because it was this or nothing.
Yeah.
And I think they knew that.
Yeah.
But no, it was just strictly covers. And even when we were in the band together for a year, it was just covers and training. Like when we moved out, it was boy band boot camp. Like 7 hours of vocal training 2 times a week, 6 hours of dance training every single day, mandatory gym in the morning for an hour and a half, and then we run a meal plan.
How old were you when all that was happening?
16, 17.
Holy shit.
I was jacked.
Like being a pro athlete.
Yeah,
it really
yeah,
is. It really is. It's
literally
like the same thing.
But that is how all of the greats got built. Like Usher was training since he was 12 all the way to like 16 before he actually like had a hit single. And even then it wasn't even a hit single. Like he didn't have his hit until he was like 18, 19. And that was all development, artist development. People don't talk about artist development. Like that shit is so important, because like when, you know, like the whole, you look at Jack Harlow, like although his development didn't come from a label, like he developed since he was like 12 all the way to now, and people think, oh, he just came out of nowhere. It's like, no, you got to put in the work and you got to train hard. So luckily we had the infrastructure and the resources to allow only the best from us. But yeah, it was a lot of hard work.
Yeah, like the crazy thing about Jack, because Jack grew up in Louisville. He grew up in the same town as me.
Oh, yeah.
And like the crazy thing about Jack is he was like, he went to Atherton High School. I went to Manual High School, and he's a year younger than me. Mm-hmm. But all of his friends like went to my high school. Like most of his like close friends went to my high school. Like more than half of them. And I remember like Jack for the longest time, bro, was like, he would be the guy like at house parties that would literally just like go to the house party and just like plug in the aux and like put his own music on.
That's tight.
And like wait for people to notice to see if they liked it or not.
That's
you know
tight.
what I mean? And like, but he was someone that like from the jump was always just like so confident. And like when What's Poppin' happened, like at the beginning of the pandemic, like everyone looked at it as like, oh, like, you know, he's just kind of like an overnight success. But Jack from like the age of like 10 started posting like YouTube videos. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of just like him freestyling, like walking through like the like middle school like hallways and shit like that, you know. And it's like he's definitely had like such an interesting glow up, but it's just I really find it funny when everyone says that it's like it really
that
is
it happens
overnight.
No, fuck that.
Like
it's never overnight.
It had been, I think it had been maybe 10 years of him putting out music, not like officially as Jack, but like, you know, his project before that and whatnot. Like it had been 10 years of him doing shit before anyone gave a fuck about what he was doing. You know what I mean? But that's just how it goes.
Yeah.
Do you your parents are they immigrants?
My mom and my dad was born in New York, but then like they had him in New York, they had him in New York, and then he like lived like majority of his life in Dominican Republic before he moved back out by himself.
Do you think that a lot of do you think that any of your motivation in music like comes from like how you grew up and like with your mom and whatnot?
No.
You think
like
all, that
bro,
all just comes from you?
all the memories that I have of music all came from like my I've always had good taste. I genuinely believe that I've always had good taste, and like the music just kind of like spoke to me, like, and I was really savvy, like tech savvy. Yeah. So I had a desktop computer and I learned how to like download from LimeWire, and I was like fucking 11, not even like 10, 9. Yeah. And I'm downloading songs from like LimeWire and FrostWire, and I'm like on YouTube and I'm watching Chris Brown, and when Michael Jackson died, I was like all like just doing my research, and I'm a historian kind of like guy. I love history, I love research, I love like diving deep into things, and it's just always been who I've been. When I started singing, my family was like, you sing? They were like, what the hell? Like, yeah, when did this happen? Like, when was this a thing? Yeah. Now I have the confidence obviously to like be me, but like not even to toot my own horn, I genuinely believe I've just always had great taste, because even now looking back, I'm like, dude, I had great taste. Like, some of the songs that I was listening to and gravitating towards, like, I was gravitating towards like Usher and Chris Brown, but like their hits, I knew their hits. I knew that like those were hits, and I knew like even certain like one-offs from like Timbaland and like Justin Timberlake and these like mainly R&B records. I was like, now looking back, at the time I didn't know what a hit record was statistically, but for me to gravitate towards those records, without anyone kind of like shepherding me in that direction, it was just me like discovering music.
Yeah.
I guess I had good taste.
Yeah, that's how I felt. Like I still like very clearly remember when Lady Gaga dropped. And that was like Just Dance and Poker Face and like all those records were like, to me, one of the bigger aha moments behind production. Because like obviously Gaga is such a generational talent and genius on so many like levels creatively. But to me, like that was my first, and even like Britney Spears like putting out Toxic and shit, like that was like, and Circus, like all those records, like that was like one of my first times being like, wow, like production has value. And and it's not something that I had ever like, obviously like I grew up listening to so many different types of music. Like when I was in second grade, my brother, who's 15 years older than me, he gave me his iPod Classic, and it had like Biggie and like Rakim and LL Cool J and just so much like old school hip hop and whatnot. And like as I was getting older, I started getting super into like pop music, and like when Justin Bieber started putting out records, and like, I mean, bro, like Cobra Starship and like that whole like kind of world and era of music, you know what I mean? But I was very like enamored by pop music for the first time, and because to me, like towards the end of me being in middle school, hip hop started to be pop for the first time, because that's when Migos and Future were starting to come out. And it was something that I didn't actually totally understand, because I grew up on like listening to like rap, and and to me, for whatever reason, looking back, it was like immature, but I had pushed it away because there was a certain type of rap music that I had always been like accustomed to listening to. And like, mind you, I'm a white kid from Louisville, like from the suburbs, you know what I mean? But it's like, for me, that's just like what I was always putting in my ears. So it's just something that I like knew, even if it's not something that I totally related to, it's something that I was always listening to. And it's like what I came to identify like that genre as, you know what I mean? And so like, I started like getting into pop music randomly. And to me, like that entire era was so undeniable. And I was, for whatever reason, cause in rap music, for me, like I never had to pay attention to the production, not because all of it was similar, but because like for the most part, I knew what to expect, because that's all I had listened to for like 5 years. And then for the first time, I realized that like electronic music really was pop music. Obviously, it's like the artists who are a part of the records are what's really like elevating to be a pop song, because it's not like a pop song without like Lady Gaga on it or Britney on it or whatnot. But like I kind of relate to what you're saying, because at the time I had no idea that those were like classics. Yeah. You know what I mean? But it's like those were the ones that I so naturally gravitated to. And it's interesting how like music is pushed out to kids, because part of me always wonders if that's like intentional. Like, you know, I'm always wondering if like even like records, like I'm literally just like thinking about like the middle school playlist right now, but even like Replay by Ayaz, which is like such a one-off record, you know what I mean? Like to me, it's so interesting the way that like music was marketed at that time, because I feel like so many kids relate to that era of music specifically, you know?
And even I look at like I remember things about like years and like time, like stamps.
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
24.
Cool.
And it's weird, like I say this to people, but like for a long time I have shitty memory, like really bad memory, but I would remember things by like the girl that I was dating at the time.
That's the most pop star shit.
I'm not gonna lie, like I'm like, oh, that was that time, okay. So that like Poker Face, like Katy Perry, Dark Horse, like that era was like such a developmental time for like music and production, because like we were just going full electronic, like it just went all the way there. And then now you have like Chris Brown doing like Turn Up the Music, and it's just so electronic. To me at that time, I was like not really for it, but now looking back, I'm like, I wish I would have paid more attention, because it was such a pivotal moment for music. Like
I think Timbaland and like Max Martin and like and like Blood Pop, like I think a lot of those guys had like a very big hand in us and Pharrell like had like a very big hand in us not even knowing that that's kind of where things were starting to go. You know what I mean? But yeah, bro, it's really interesting, like even hearing like some of the stuff that you guys have been putting out, both on your solo project and with Prettymuch, like that I feel like you incorporate like quite a few electronic elements. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm just like, Brandon and I do the majority of the producing for Prettymuch, and like he's been producing since he was 12, so he understands like the technical side of it more. He has a better ear because it's just been developed like hard. Like he can hear different frequencies and he can mix and he can master. Like it's kind of second nature for him.
Yeah.
Me, I'm like, I'll hear something and I'm just like, I don't know what it is, but that's so fucking cool.
Yeah.
Or like I kind of like to bring the left side of it, or trying to like, let's break the rules a little bit here.
Yeah.
So I'm like, let's bend genres. Let's like put things in here that shouldn't work. Like, obviously you love Jai Paul. I fucking love Jai Paul, and I'm like, that for me, that is like the epitome of, you can make like, just pay a little bit more attention, but also like be a little bit different. Like be weird. Like you don't have to fit a mold.
Yeah.
We're pop, but like no one's telling us, if we create our lane, then we're not in competition with anybody. We're in it by ourselves. So it's cool to have someone in the production side of things to bounce ideas off of. And then now that the rest of the guys are starting to like produce more, they're taking it from a different perspective, because they're like, I don't know how to say this technically, but I know what it sounds like and what it's supposed to sound like. So to hear it like in layman's terms is like kind of cool too. Like, put this here. And for me, I'm like, technically that wouldn't work, but because you're saying it and you don't know much about this production, like, let's put it in and see if it works, and 9 times out of 10 it works.
I find that I actually have like the most fun working. I mean, I love everyone that I work with. I feel like I'm so grateful to have like a group of friends that I'm always like in the studio with. But for me, like my homie Daz, who you've met before, Daz literally doesn't know anything about music production. Like
really?
Daz doesn't know a single thing, but he's one of my favorite people to work with, because he'll explain it in a way that like makes me really have to think, like in a good way. Like he'll say some shit, like we'll be working and be like, yo, that sounds sticky. And in my mind, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck does that mean? You know, but to me, that's like the coolest way.
Yeah.
And because he doesn't like really have a concept of how long things take. Because like sometimes if it's like, oh, like, you know, I want you to add a bridge where everything is like backwards, like, you know what I mean? Just something that's like a tall task. Sometimes I get a little bit lazy and I'm just like, like, you know, I don't have to do that. But like with him, he's like, I don't give a fuck how long it takes, because I don't know anything about this. Just do it. You know what I mean? Just like reverse the whole song, pitch it up like 370 tones, like without even saying that. You know what I mean? But I really like that people that encourage the stupidest shit, because somewhere in like making stupid shit, you'll actually find gold.
1,000%.
You know what I mean?
1,000%. I heard this like philosophy of like, you know, when you're getting stuck, just like put on a beat and just say stupid, just like start mumbling random shit and like make a joke out of it. Because 9 times out of 10, like, as long as you're recording it, you're gonna find something great in it. Like, everybody gets drunk and just starts voice recording, like the noise and just like people talking and people laughing and joking around, like, and doing stupid melodies, like something in there out of just the love and fun of it all. Like, because you're not trying to write the song, you're gonna get something great out of it. But that's sick. I didn't know that about him. Like, I would have thought he knew. Like, that last project, the production was fucking incredible. I was like super and like enamored by like just the development and the journey that I kind of like was taken through.
But he just knows what he likes, and he definitely knows what he doesn't like. And I feel like that's like probably one of the most important skill sets to have. You know what I mean? But dude, so like, let's like segue for a second, like, because I feel like we touched on your backstory real quick, and I kind of want to get into that just a little bit more. So like, you're obviously like, you're in New York, you're auditioning, you move to LA, you kind of get picked to be in the band. Brandon gets subbed in.
Which honestly was like the best decision. Like, I don't know where in the cosmos like it was meant to be, but that was meant to be. Yeah.
I mean, shit, that's just life, bro.
Yeah.
Like, shit like that happens all the time. Like, and I wonder, like, how do you go from, I'm assuming you don't really know each other like well when you're selected to be like a boy band. Like, you had maybe spent what, like 5-10 times hanging out together?
Yeah.
What did it look like when you started like getting in the studio together, and how did you eventually find some sort of like coherent workflow?
So we lived in a house on Sherman Oaks, and
you moved in that month, right?
Yeah. So we moved in, and it was the the camaraderie came from just not having anyone else. Like we were the only we didn't have the leverage of like meeting people because we were young. We couldn't drive anywhere. Like we had chaperones. Like we were like our parents were our chaperones, and like we would only do what we had to do, and live together. So we only had each other. So, you know, we would just fuck around, just make music. Brandon knew how to produce, so it was fun because we could fuck around in his room and just like he'll make a beat and we'll like act as if we know what the fuck we're doing and just like develop this thing without being forced to do it, but also like no timeline. Like we weren't like we have to make it by this deadline. We were just making shit. What helped a lot was our vocal coach at the time. We would have, like I said, 7 hours of vocal training, twice a week, and we would do harmonies and we would do covers. So we would learn like boy band versions of like songs. So we would like take a hit song at the time, so like "Jealous" by Nick Jonas, and we would like she would arrange it, and we would have to learn the harmonies and then sing it together and then record it and present it, and we would do that like once a week. So that we learned how to train our ears, being able to hear the third and the fifth and the octave and blend with each other and know, okay, he's the one that's off. Like let him know. Make sure that next time you let him know. Wow. Or if you're off, know why you're off. So being able to do that, and then we transitioned from that on video to that in the studio. So we worked with a producer, I forget his name, but he was a sick dude. I literally forget his name. But he would be in charge of building the boy band rendition of that song. So now we were going into the studio and recording our parts on a microphone and learning like tone and how to like do it all with the headphones and the turn this up and turn this down and push it more, and just to hear what you sound like on a microphone, because if you've never done it before, then that's a difficult task. And then that developed to because we were with the label, they had their crew of producers and songwriters that worked with One Direction, so they were kind of trying us with them. So they wrote songs and they had us sing them. So they present a demo, we'd sing the songs. And again, same thing, just getting more feedback from different producers and songwriters and just doing it over and over and getting nitty gritty and nitpicky about like what our voices sound like and being able to create your own tone. Like, what's your vocal identity on this? How do you want to be presented? So it wasn't a lot of us. Like the decision making wasn't us. The whole thing was about just be the best version that you can be and get better at singing, and being a vocalist. The plan literally was never like, I know for a fact the plan was never for the label to have us be songwriters, because One Direction didn't write songs. They didn't have a hand in writing until the last album, because they were touring so much. Like they were a band for like 5-6 years. Their entire career was touring. They went home apparently like once or twice like in those 5 years. They didn't have time to write. They were just on tour, doing interviews, doing things. So the plan wasn't for us ever to write, but because we lived together and we had the studio at the house, and we naturally gravitated towards doing it. Did
you enjoy being kind of in that system, or like, did you ever at any point feel like you didn't have enough creative control, or were you happy that it was kind of babysat in that way? Maybe babysitting isn't like guided, I think, in a certain way.
I think, when you're in it, you're like, I'm ready.
Yeah.
So that was the frustration of like, when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? They did give us, I think because of just who we were and like how amicable we were as people, like we developed relationships with these songwriters and producers that were also a part of the label. So they kind of had our back when Simon, or like at the time, Sonny Guitar, who ended up being our manager, like when they didn't know who we were because they didn't spend time with us, when they were like, no, this is how it's supposed to go, they had our back, and they allowed us to like change a few words here and then add some production value here. And then when it came down to sessions, like we were getting, actually, to be fair, the first big major session that we had where the songs actually came out, our first 4 singles, those were done with the Max Martin camp. And surprisingly, I don't know if so they were done with Salvin Katecha, who's done like majority of Ariana stuff and a lot of Katy Perry stuff. I think we developed a relationship with him where he saw the potential in us and was like, no, these guys know. And I don't know whether it was the whole year and a half of being together, but he was like, they know what they're doing, and I'm going to give them the chance to do it. So Open Arms, which was our third single, full acapella record. This story is phenomenal. They put a lot of eggs in that basket because obviously it's Max Martin team. Like, you know, it's Simon Cowell and Max Martin. They're gonna have their thing. And Savin had these ideas for us, and we were kind of rolling with it because, again, you just don't know. Like, we don't have much say, but we were trusting the process because you have greats telling you that this is what's gonna happen. So we're rolling with the punches. We definitely never said yes to anything if we didn't think that was the best foot forward at that time. Like, we definitely said no to things, but we weren't hard about it. We brought an idea to the table to make sure that it wasn't just no. Like, it's like, but what about this? So we go in and Savin's like, okay, we should do like a Boyz II Men style record where it's all acapella. And we were like, okay, let's do it. So he built out the song. He only came up with the melodies and the harmonies, and he was like, I want you guys to write the lyrics. So we were like, that's super sweet of you, thanks. So we go in with him and we write the song, and he loves it. We start singing the record, and it's coming together nicely. Nick sucked at timing because there's no beat. There's not even a bass line. Like, there's nothing. So he had to kind of like, we needed a first of all, we needed a metronome, but he couldn't get it to fit because it's just all a cappella. So the producer at the time, Ilya, he put some Ariana drums, like just a pack that he had from his like stuff with Ari, put it in and put a bass line, like an 808, just so he could have something to ride on for the second verse. He forgot to take it off. So the whole half of the song is a cappella, and then when Nick's verse comes in, the 808 kicks and the drums kick in, and we all like, everyone's kind of on their phones, and we're like, you know, obviously how it goes in the studio. Everyone just like gets up and lights up, and they're like, what the fuck? Holy shit. And then we're literally telling everybody in this, because it's like a whole compound, we're like, come in here, like listen to this shit. And we're like so hyped because we only have one record out. We're like this boy band. Everyone's looking at us like we're going to be like this thing. And we're like, holy shit, this is fucking crazy. We call our manager. Our manager comes like, this is the one. This shit's fucking crazy. And yeah, it was like our first song to ever like really take off. No push, no label push, no nothing. We just released it. And it's like probably one of our most streamed songs to date. And we had a hand in writing that.
Did you release that with a label?
Yeah. All of our songs up until the songs that have been released this year have all been with the label.
Do you think that for you guys, would you consider that like a hit record?
Yes. We knew. Like, we had, like, our biggest frustration with the label was that we were never allowed to decide the record that was going to be the one.
Right.
And every single song, you can look at the metrics, all the statistics, every single music video, every single song that we wanted to be the one have the most streams out of the ones that they picked.
Yeah.
Every single one. And I think you can tell in the identity of how we sang it. Like, we believed it, we cared about it, we put it forth. And I think it reads. Like, the fans can listen to it and hear, like, oh, yeah, this is the identity that you guys are portraying on social media. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm one guy on social media and then I drop, like, if I'm a rapper, a hard rapper, and then I drop a song that sounds like a, like, flow rider, like, you're gonna look at me like this doesn't make sense, you know?
Well, Yachty just did that though, low key.
But he's built that.
Yeah.
Like, he's built that, and also he has he has an open dialogue.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like, it's open enough to where like you can let people in and be like, I'm going to make a change, like, give a chance.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're coming out, if like all of our eyeballs are coming from social media and we're being presented as this, like, that's not gonna make sense as much.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like the songs that you care about the most are going to be the ones that you want to push the most anyway.
Yeah.
Because, like, you don't want to push something that isn't, like, that doesn't feel like it's something you're 300% proud of.
Exactly.
You know?
And even, like for reference, our song Summer on You, Ed Sheeran wrote that record.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the biggest Ed Sheeran fan ever. So to me, I was like, wow, this is like a full circle, like, moment for me. I still wasn't like, because it didn't make sense for us.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but they were like, Ed Sheeran, songwriter, big dude, writes song for pop boy band, pop, makes sense.
Yeah.
It didn't make any sense because the record doesn't represent who we are and what we stand for and how we're being portrayed online, our brand identity. And yeah, it did well, but it only did well because Ed Sheeran wrote it. The label put money behind it. The music video was big. Like, all of the things that the label should be doing, they did it, so it did the numbers. But in comparison to the records that got no push, got like a $10,000, not even like a $10,000, $8,000 music video budget, like those are the ones that are at par with those records, and we knew that. Like, we knew going in that we wanted that, but they just, you know, you gotta trust the process.
Sure.
As they say.
I guess this is something that I've been thinking about like a lot recently. Is like what do you think is the major role of a label today? Because in my mind, right, like I'm interested to get your answer because you're someone that spent, you know, majority of your career, right, like in the major label system. Mm-hmm. From what I've seen for like a lot of my friends and people that I've worked with is like a label is phenomenal at one thing, which is taking something from something to a lot. Mm-hmm. You know, when Oliver Tree was when Miss You was coming up, like that was a whole thing because he was in Mexico, he was like vacationing and whatnot, and like the song starts blowing up, and all of a sudden like all these people are hired overseas and like just shit that you would not even think to do to like get a song moving. Yep. But I'm just wondering, you know, in 2023, like what does the role of a major label start to look like, or what was your experience with that?
Yeah, I think that like, and again, like I loved what the label did for us, and they were.
And I've never been a fuck record label guy.
Yeah.
Like I think that there's a world where it works for a lot of people, and I think that the negative stories get a lot more light than the positive.
And
ones.
I think that now being independent, I look back, I'm like, now I know what the label, now I know what I'm missing, and like the hardest things, like that you're just not thinking about when you're in the, fuck this is like, I don't know why it's not going my way, blah, blah, blah. It's like the little things of just having someone dedicated to something, where now I have to do it all, is kind of hard. But I think that the role now for a label is, like you said, like take something from something and blow it, but also like it should be to make sure that the artist is, you know, comfortable, is comfortable and excited to show up to work every day. And that's as easy as just making sure that they have food on their plate, making sure that they have a home over their head, and just like can pay basic bills. But also like, what do you need? Not what you want. What do you need to make your career move forward? Because it's not gonna come from putting all your eggs into one basket, which my label did. Like they spent $500,000 on a music video, because we were doing it with a Latin boy band that was also signed to that label, and like they were huge, so it only made sense that this song was going to be the one. Mm-hmm. It didn't happen that way. You can easily have that same approach without having to spend $500,000 in a music video, and realistically, you could spend that much money on something that's gonna make more sense, like marketing. Paying someone that's dedicated to that job that much money, that song is gonna go places. But the label just kind of, what I'm realizing with labels and with people in that power is that they want to have their opinion be heard, and they want to be the one to say I did it, which is weird because it's like it's a whole lot. It's like a power dynamic thing. Like A&Rs also make a cut off of signing artists, and they also get a higher pay rate if like the song does well because that was your artist. So like, but then the A&R also has like signed this producer, so they're gonna put the producer in with the artist, but that doesn't make sense. And there's like a whole lot of like just
it's a hierarchy.
It's a hierarchy thing, and it's like, dude, and the person that gets fucked is the artist.
Right. And
I think that the artist should be at the forefront of all of this, because none of this is gonna happen if the artist can't even pay rent. You know.
I feel like a year ago these were like a lot of the questions that I was like asking, because I feel like there's so many collaborators that I know that like have been in and out of systems and whatnot, and I think that a lot of them have found a lot of positives that have come from them. And like you said, it is important to have a dedicated team around you.
Yeah.
For me though, I just did a raise for my artist project, and like the whole point of that raise was to take some of the principles that you see around a major label and see if you can kind of basically hire like a full-time team around Prettymuch, or hire a full-time team around Daniel, like whatever it is. And it's interesting because on the one hand, it's like, yes, one of the things you said is like, oh, you know, hire a full-time marketing person and you can make a song move. But the underlying assumption is that that person knows what to do with the money.
Yeah.
And
Exactly. True.
the reality is that if you give an artist $100,000 today, I think that 9 out of 10 artists have no idea what the fuck to do with it. I think that artists, myself included, I'm presuming you at one point, have all been very broke. So when you get your first bag, you pay rent. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you actually, like, dude, my first 2 years living here, I was living in, you know, fucking couch surfing, like, living in an Airbnb with the Russian fugitives downstairs. I was doing, like, the whole thing. You know what I mean? And, like, when I made my first money, like, off of selling music NFTs, like, the first thing I did was, like, pay my rent and, like, not just eat pasta from Ralph's. You know what I mean? Like, I became, like, kind of like a human being for the first time. Don't get me wrong, bro, I'm Jewish as fuck. Like, I save my money, you know what I mean? But it's like, at the time, like, I literally was making $1,000 a month. $600 was my rent at the Airbnb, so I had $400 to live off of, which is $100 a week. And I still, like, remember, like, everyone was going out. Like, I could not go out. Like, it was literally, like, so far outside of my budget to, like, go anywhere. You know what I mean? That it was just, like, I ate pasta every day. I had oatmeal every morning for breakfast. Like, I ate, like, 1,400 calories a day because that was, like, the cheapest way to live. You know what I mean? So it's like when an artist first makes their bag, like, they're kind of just, like, it's like, okay, I can breathe for, like, X amount of time. Yeah. You know what I mean? But to me, that's where I think that a lot of artists can go wrong, because if you've perpetually been making nothing, and then all of a sudden you're flashed 50 grand, 100 grand, whatever the number is, like, you have this sigh of relief of, like, oh my God, I cannot think about money for 6 months or a year, or, you know, however long you want to, like, stretch that. Yeah. But what I'm getting at is, when you make the money, like, all of it, most of it, if not all of it, should be reinvested into your project. 100%. Because otherwise, the money's going to run out, and you're going to be at the same place that you were before, and you just have no idea how to scale, and you have to give up more and more of your next project to try to scale your career, but you haven't built anything with the money that you already had, so it's going to be harder for you to find a deal, et cetera, right? But the reality is I don't think, like, it's such a hit in 2023 or a big record in 2023 is such a dynamic question. Yeah,
I think that the same way that people, like, I did a lot of, like, stock stuff. They always say diversify your portfolio. Like, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, because if that stock crashes, then you're shit out of luck. Diversify your portfolio. I think that now in 2023, like, it's about diversifying your portfolio, allowing, like, the masses to decide, but giving every single thing that you have an equal chance at winning. And if you genuinely feel like something has gotten more love than the other thing, then like, show it more love. But I think that the biggest misconception is that, like, we know what a hit record is, therefore we can make it happen. Back in the day, it was easy because everyone was getting fed music from the radio. Okay, so if you're a label and you have $200,000 to pay for a radio slot, and you all decided that this song is pretty good, then you put it on the radio, let the radio do its thing, and now the song is going to go, and you're going to make your money back, and yay, now this person is huge, and good. Now there's just so many different ways to consume music that you can't bet on any of them. You have to bet on all of them and allow the people to decide. I think what's sick about this whole music NFT thing and, like, that landscape is that we're catering to collectors first. And we're not, like, it's less ego. It's more about here, and, like, let's build a community together. Because if you build that street team, then 100 people who are dedicated to you is way better than, 1,000 people that heard your song once on the radio and, like, saved it or something.
Yeah, and look, I don't have a hit record, and I've never played a stadium. But what I can say is I have played in a room of, like, 150 people where everyone knows all the words, and I think that that's, like, again, it's easy for me to say, like, oh, I love that, but because I haven't done the other things, you know, I'm playing my first festival next month. Like, that's all like a very new world to me, you know, and maybe I listen to this in a month, I'm like, oh, fuck, like, I was wrong. Festivals are so much cooler. You know what I mean? But to me, that is a cool feeling. And, like, I think with, like, the shit that I'm doing, that we're doing, like, on the music NFT side is, like, I feel that to be a good artist, you have to do a lot of things really well. Like, you have to have a brand that you can upload. You have to have really good music, fine. Like, that's, like, the minimum. You have to have really good music, but you could have really good music and be working at a Starbucks. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people make really good music. You have to have, like, a really good brand. Like, those are all things for you to be a good artist that, like, pays your rent with music. But the thing that I've been thinking a lot about recently is like, I think to be a great artist, people have to look at you in 20 years and be like, that motherfucker did shit so different. And like, not only about the music, like you could say that about like Kanye West, like he did that with his music, I think in a lot of ways, like when Graduation was coming out, when College Dropout was coming out, like it's like, wow, like bro is really like sampling, and like he sampled Daft Punk, like wow, like that's so crazy for like rap music to, you know what I mean? But I think obviously like it's, you know, him being a businessman, him building a brand. Like Jay-Z is someone that I also look at as well, with like what he does with Rock Nation. It's kind of like bro had this like massive artist career, obviously, like so many crazy records, and then all of a sudden started building the shit for like everyone else, you know what I mean, and like so many other people. And like bringing them up as well. And one of the things that I'm trying to understand, not just for myself, but for like a lot of people in my life, is I feel like a lot of small artists right now are kind of in this pocket where it's like, you know, they have X amount of monthly listeners, they have X amount of the music, they maybe have an album they're sitting on, they maybe have 10 to 15 like solid demos, maybe a couple cool songwriters on them, a couple cool producers, like what, you know. And like the main thing that the main place that their head goes is kind of like, okay, I'm going to sign a distro deal. Because if I sign a distro deal, I'm going to get, you know, a couple 100,000 streams on a song. If I get a couple 100,000 streams on a song, maybe I turn ahead. I catch the attention of an A&R somewhere, you know. And I think that while it's a good train of thought, because it's like, okay, like you're thinking from the perspective of how do I scale my project? The thing that I struggle with is like, I was talking to a homie about this the other day. It was like, it's like, yeah, like I just want like 50 grand to get from a distributor, you know? And I'm like, okay, great. Like, what are you going to do with that? He's like, well, really all I want is like distribution. Like all I want is for more people to hear my music. I'm like, oh, like how does a distributor like necessarily help that? Because like just because you sign with a distributor doesn't mean you're going to get like New Music Friday on everything. And even if you get New Music Friday on everything, that means a whole lot less now than it did 5 or 6 years ago. Like the reality is like you can be on like whatever playlist, and like I'm sure there are people that listen to my music. I'm sure there are people that listen to your music that just maybe like know the song but don't even know who the artist is because it came on like a really big playlist, you know? And like the question that I'm starting to ask myself more and more, or maybe the realization that I've come to, whether correct or not, but it's how I feel, is like I feel like the next wave of artists and the next generation of artists that really come up are going to be artists that embrace newer technology early on. Obviously I think that nothing is going to happen to the music industry as currently constructed because it's a well-oiled machine. Like things work really well. But one thing that I learned from, you know, I started dropping music NFTs in like March of 2021, and like I was trying to get everyone's attention in the music industry for the longest time. I was dropping so many songs. I was like doing the whole thing, and like maybe the music wasn't there at the time, and I'm happy to admit that. But one thing that I definitely noticed was if you do something like so different, people don't have a choice not to notice. And for the longest time, I was like, oh, it has to be like avant-garde, like music. Like it has to be like Frank, or it has to be like J. Paul. And don't get me wrong, like that's a great fucking North Star. Like those are like goats in music. Yeah. But yeah, it's just like interesting to me that I think that really a lot of the artists that are dropping on Sound, a lot of the artists that are like dropping music NFTs, like it is a liberating thing. Like it is like, it reminds me a lot of like SoundCloud, except you get paid for it. Yeah. Like, you know, like the whole SoundCloud era, like when Oshi and all of them were like coming up, was like, you make something, you drop it like the same fucking day. Like you're allowed to do that. I feel like the idea of doing that right now is so like incorrect. People are like scared of doing it. And I get that because like obviously like, especially with you guys, I mean, you have like a pretty built out brand that you've built out over years of being curated and being editorial and like being very thoughtful about which song you're putting out and what the rollout is going to be and whatnot. So I'm not to diminish like the importance of proper rollouts, but it's more like, I genuinely think that music NFTs are fucking cool, bro. Like I know it sounds like hilarious, and the reality is I don't think that they're going to have like a moment until kids really start to think they're cool. Like to me, I've met like 6 or 7 people that have said they've discovered Billie. You know, Chad found Billie, like he found Ocean Eyes when she was like 13. You know what I mean? But like I've met so many people like I discovered Billie Eilish. Like, I was there. I was there back in the day. You know, like I think it would be the coolest shit if Billie dropped like 10 editions of Ocean Eyes in 2013 for like $5 each, and like people could really be like, I have like the first digital record of this artist that ended up being one of the biggest artists in the world. Like to me, I would have killed to have had like an early X Vine or early X like NFT.
Yeah.
Like to me that's just cool as fuck. You know, in the same way like how like vinyls had their biggest week of all time sales in December of 2022.
Yeah.
I think part of that is like, yeah, like sure, like more people are listening to vinyl, like that's cool. But I think more people just think that it's a cool thing to have and a cool thing to do. Like I have a bunch of vinyls that I just put up on my walls. Like I haven't even opened half of them, you know, because I just think it's cool. And to me, like, it's this like net new world that hadn't previously existed. And I think in a lot of ways it does empower artists because in my opinion, like, I do think that a lot of artists are like tired. And that's not to say, again, like I don't want to like create a tone that's like I hate the system or because that's just not who I am. But I just think that generally like so many of the best artists in the world right now are 15 years old. They're living in their mom's like, you know, they're living in their bedroom, whatever, making beats on like some KRK Rockets if they even have those, you know what I mean? And like a lot of them are trying to figure out a fucking game plan.
Yeah.
And like the only thing that they're looking at is like, okay, I can either sign a record deal or I can sign a publishing deal. Those are kind of like my options of what I can do. But there's never like an alternative of like, how do I make $50,000 a year off my music? Like, how do I make $60,000 off my, like, do what you want with the money. Like, if you want to scale your project, figure out how to scale your project. You know what I mean? But to me, it's like interesting that like, you know, like Bloody White, right? Like Bloody has like 1,000 SoundCloud followers. He's one of the best artists I've ever met. You know what I mean? But bro doesn't want to like market it, like, which is fine. Like I think like obviously you have to do a lot of things to be like a superstar, and one of those is marketing the shit out of your music and thinking about creative rollouts. But there's no reason that someone like him shouldn't be making $50,000 a year off of music just to be able to make music all the time. You know what I mean? And I think that's the shit that has always like excited me the most about it is like there's this, obviously you can take it to whatever level you want to take it to, but just the fact that option exists to me is like the sickest shit, you know? And that's why like I like advocate for it in like an interesting way. Like I feel like I'm that guy that's like knocking on doors like, have you heard of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? Like I feel like that's me talking about music NFTs sometimes.
That's funny.
But I don't know, it just feels like this world exists that hadn't previously existed, or it's kind of like the reincarnation of that whole SoundCloud world, but you can now like find sustainable streams of revenue. Like even for you, like I'm assuming, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming you signed a record deal, probably got like a lump sum of money, whatever that was, and we're kind of living off that and like making new music, like building out new projects and whatnot. But that's the thing about getting a deal is like you make money, you have like much money in your bank account,
stretch that shit,
and then you just have to figure it the fuck out. And there's like nothing really else coming in. Obviously like publishing, like songwriting, like obviously all those things as well. But you guys, it seemed like were locked the fuck in on the artist project. Like that's like you guys were trained.
But also it was like I didn't realize, but it was 360.
You didn't realize it? How do you not realize that?
Well, because I didn't know what a 360 deal was.
Yeah.
And I was 16. We had our lawyer, but our lawyer, I trusted my lawyer, and my lawyer was like, "This is a great deal."
Wow.
It was a shitty deal. But the thing is
sad.
like
that makes me sad. I'm not gonna lie.
The thing is, it was pretty shitty, but it was like there was, I don't know if maybe, I think I think he pushed a budge on the terms, but they budged only so much.
Yeah.
But it's all you have. There's no other deal.
Right.
They found
but that's what
you.
I'm saying. But that's kind of what I'm saying is like, however much money it was, I would imagine that you kind of looked at it, you're like, damn, I'm about to get paid off music. 100%. You know what I mean? Like, and that's a crazy fucking feeling. But I think that a lot of it is like, you don't really see what some of the implications could be. And again, bro, I just did this new thing for my shit. I could look back at the 10 years and be like, I fucked up big time. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that like that I'm like the right guy here, but what I'm getting at is this whole like notion of there only being like one or two options, to me has always kind of felt incorrect, because it feels like a little bit too much of a lottery system. Like I'm someone that like, I got into music. I need to say like less. I got this. I got into music a little bit later on in my life. I was always a fan of music, but I started getting into it like production when I was 16. And like you said, motherfuckers are out here getting groomed when they're 10, 12, you know?
Yeah.
And so 16 might be early to some, but to me that was like pretty late, you know, to start really understanding how to produce and whatnot. And I really started taking it seriously when I was 20, which feels like a grandpa in music. But I worked really hard. And the reality is there are a lot of people that work really hard, but very, very few of them actually turn it into a career in music.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think like the average career life in music is 5 years, I think is the number.
Yeah, that's literally the number.
Yeah, and so that's fucking absurd to me, bro. Like, what accountant works for 5 years?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's
That shit scares me all the time. I hate when people say that.
yeah.
Because I'm like, you look at Bruno Mars, like, he didn't really pop off. Like, pop off. Like, yeah, he has his yeah, Just the Way You Are and Grenade. But, like, he wasn't a worldwide sensation until the 24 Karat Magic. Or not even, like, Lockdown of Heaven, 24 Karat Magic.
Yeah.
And, like, to where he was like, okay, you're up here with, like, the greats. And that was, like, 4 or 5 years ago. Like, that was, like,
that's crazy.
you know what I mean? Like, he was probably
Yeah.
like, what, 30? He's probably like reaching late 30s now. Like, Travis Scott didn't like get his big break until he was like 28. Like, we got time. It's just, I hate that whole like, and even actors. There's some actors that like don't get their break until they're like 50.
Who was the guy who won
The dude from
the Asian dude? What's his name?
I forget his name, from Everything Everywhere.
Yeah.
Bro, he like had his
that
moment.
Made me tear up,
bro.
bro.
Yeah,
That shit made me tear
because
up.
it's like you think your life, like everyone loves you, and you're this thing at a young age, and then you don't have a job or an acting job for all
he was
of your
a child
life.
actor, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't he?
Indiana
Like,
Jones and Goonies.
Yeah, crazy.
And then your whole life you have nothing in the acting world, and then you get this big role, and now you have an Oscar or whatever he got. I don't know what he got.
That shit is so heartwarming to me, bro.
Like, that shit's so sick. And everyone, I hate the time thing. It's like, the
I
more I
agree.
think about the time, the older I feel like I'm getting, and like, I'm trying to do more meditation and like get more like zen with my shit, because the more you think about time, the older you get physically, because you're dating yourself. Like, a lot of the monks who like meditate every day, like, they'll live to 120 because they don't have a clock that they're looking at. They're just living in the present. And I think there has to be more of like everyone's comparing, because social media allows that.
Yeah.
For you to compare, and there's numbers, and everyone's just like wrapped around these numbers. But I think something I saw a long time ago is, if you have a day job, don't quit your day job doing music. Like, stick in your day job so that you don't have to rely on music to
Could not agree more.
to pay your rent and do whatever the fuck. Like, once your music is making more than what your day job is doing, it has to be double that, because now you can really let go of your day job and do music full time. But the hardest part is like this notion that you, like, even for me, I find it hard. Like, sometimes when things get tight, I'm like, I can't, the ego in me says I can't go back to what it was, you know?
Yeah,
And like that conversation needs to be a thing, because it's not, there's so much comparison, there's too much of like this ego and of like what it means to be an artist and what it means to drop music and how you should drop music. It's like, there is no rule, there are no say how. And now that there are really so many ways to make it happen for yourself, just allow yourself the opportunity to do that. But like, for like, the most important thing is making sure that you can show up and make sure that you're happy doing it. Because if you're worried about, I can't pay rent, I can't pay bills, like, I have to do this, that, and the third to make this happen, and it's like, you're not coming to the art with the intention of creating the best that you can make, because your mind is completely elsewhere.
Dude, I had an ego about it when I first moved here, because I was like, I'm fucking dropping everything. I'm making 250 peanut butter sandwiches. I'm moving across the country. I'm doing the whole shit, sleeping in my Honda.
Yeah.
You know, and like, it's not that I regret it, but looking back at that era, I put so many songs out that were like, I just was not proud of, because I found a system, like, when I first moved here. Like, I just found like a couple labels that I could like do, like, I could do, like, sign 3 songs with them, get like, you know, $3 to $5 grand at a time or whatever. And like, it would just last me like a couple months. You know what I mean? I'm signing like 20-year terms, bro. You know what I mean? I didn't give a fuck. Like, I was just like, I was like, I'm paying my rent out here. You know what I mean? And like, in hindsight, like I said, I don't regret it, because I learned a shit ton from that era. But it was really interesting to me, because I was making music from a place of like, I need to pay my rent off of this song that I'm currently making right now. And you definitely don't make the best music that way. You know, like, you need to, you definitely need to create some sort of a chamber for yourself where you're not worried. Obviously, at every level of wealth, like 99% of them, you're going to be worried about money.
Yeah.
You know, because
1000%.
like, new habits come up, like, whatever, you get nicer things that you have to pay for. Like, it's like, it's kind of silly, but like, I think that regardless, creating music from that place is probably one of the worst things that you could do. And obviously it's different for everyone. Some people are really like motivated to get to that point. Like I remember I was like, I was like, I'm going to find a way to figure this out. But in hindsight, it wouldn't have been the worst thing to fucking work at Starbucks and like make songs, because like I feel like people really, I think about this shit all the time. I've been thinking about this for years. I think that people really, really overestimate how bad the worst case scenario can be. I think that it's like, what's my worst case scenario? Assuming the health of like my family, assuming that like everyone in my life can like stay healthy. The worst case scenario outside of that is that ETH goes to zero. Okay. I have no money. Like everything is gone. I'll sell my speakers. I sell like my car, right? I'll sell the shit that I have, and I will go to Jimmy John's and I'll work in the store. Like that's like the apps. I would say like that's probably the worst case. Maybe I sleep in my car. Maybe I like crash on a few friends' couches. I guess at that point I wouldn't have a car. Like I'd sleep on like a friend's couch or whatever, and I'd like walk to Jimmy John's. I walk to like the store right next to it, right? Yeah. Whatever it is. That's probably the worst case scenario. So in that instance, I'm still healthy. I'm still making music after work every day. Yeah. So the essentials are still there. I'm maybe let's say I'm dropping music and I'm getting less than 1,000 plays on every song. Let's say like that's the worst case scenario. I'm still dropping music that I like. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think that there's this fear because of social media. There's and just us living very digitally. There's this fear that if something like underperforms, it's going to be public. You know, like everyone can see like how bad you're doing or whatever. And I think some people like get joy in that. I think some people like really get joy in like seeing other people like do badly. 1,000%. You know what I mean? And so it's really interesting because when I started taking music seriously, I had dropped out of college and it was 2016. I said drop out. I took a year off, but drop out sounds so much harder. but I had dropped out of college and I was living in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, which is like 30 minutes outside of Nashville. Because I basically told my parents are immigrants. They're from like the former Soviet Union, from Ukraine. And I was like making a deal with them. Like, you know, I'm going to move to Murfreesboro, move to Nashville, and I'm going to try to do music full time. And if it happens, and mind you, I'd been producing for like a year at this point.
That's crazy.
I was just like,
that's pretty wild. And
I was like, you know, I'm gonna find a way to do this full time, and if I don't, I'm gonna go back to school. I'm gonna go back to Boston. I'll be like a good kid, whatever. And in that year, I was very likely like the immigrant kid's worst case scenario. I was living in the middle of nowhere. I was a Jimmy John's delivery driver. That's why I said Jimmy John's.
Oh, okay.
And I was, more than broke. Like I was just like absurdly fucking broke. But rent was $300 a month in Murfreesboro for my room, and I would make like $300 in a week. So after 1 week of working, I could take the rest of those 3 weeks. I had no expenses. I could take the rest of those 3 weeks of the month, and I could just sit and I can make music literally all day. Yeah. And that was, to me, like still the most important year of my life, because in everyone's eyes, like Russian people like are very like status driven, like, and they're very strict. So like I remember I would go home all the time, and there would be all these like Russian get-togethers, and for whatever reason in Louisville, like I grew up with like 20 kids that are all the same age as me, all Russian kids. Like very like weird how that like worked out. But like it's always like a dick flexing contest of like what is it's not even what you do. It's like, what does your kid do? Like how much is your kid making? Like what is all this? And I remember at the time, not only was I making no money, like I was making negative money. Like I remember I would pull up to all these functions, and they would always ask, like the parents would ask. They didn't actually care how I was doing. They were just like asking to see how I compared to their kids. Yeah. And they were like, oh, you know, like what do you do? And I was like, oh, I make music. And they you could just see their face like drop immediately. But for whatever reason, I started to do that in 2016 when I was doing the Jimmy John's show. I wasn't saying like I was a delivery driver, which I had nothing against, but I was very much like, no, I do music. Like this is my job. I'm just, it's like Will.i.am said in that interview. It's like, this is my job. I'm just not getting paid for it yet. And for me, having that year in my life is something that when I moved here, it made it very easy for me to move here having that year in my life, because I was like, the worst case is I fucking moved to LA and I'm working at a Starbucks, I'm working at Jimmy John's, I'm doing whatever, and I'm good. The bigger difference is like, it's way better than Murfreesboro because there are motherfuckers out here that are good at music that I can learn from. The thing about Murfreesboro is I was doing all that shit by myself on YouTube like all day, which is a blessing in itself because there's so many resources now to like get good from anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
But obviously, you know, I wanted to move here. I wanted to like meet all the people. I wanted to like work with people that are way better than me, which I still think is the case 99% of the time. And I always want that to be the case.
Yeah.
But yeah, bro, I don't know. It's just like something that I think about really often. And like the reason that I like did this podcast is because I feel like so many of the people that I know are, so many of the people that I'm like trying to talk to are like the 16-year-old versions of me.
Mm-hmm.
And 16-year-old versions of not just me, but any kid that's like trying to be creative or any kid that like wants to figure out how to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like everyone has such a uniquely different story that is, I just don't want it to seem like to a kid that's listening to this that it's like this black and white thing. You're either like the most talented person in the world or you can't make it, you know? And so like, yeah, long-winded way of saying like, I just feel like the worst case scenario is just not nearly as bad as what anyone thinks it is. And if you just focus on development, if you just focus on how to be the most unique and like the best version of yourself, eventually I think that you will figure it out. I just think most kids and most people give up before they get to that point because you might be doing music for 10 years before you see a penny off of it. But that doesn't mean you're not good.
Yeah.
It just means that like for whatever reason, that time or that moment hasn't come for you yet. Like
1,000.
I was talking to someone recently, like a old homie, and he's like, yo, you just turned 26. Do you feel old or do you feel young? And like my answer was like, I feel like the oldest and the youngest that I've ever felt. Like I feel the oldest in the sense of, you know, I feel like I'm at the most accomplished point in my career. Like I've done all these things that I'm like so tremendously proud of. Like I feel like I've done things that I never thought I could do. But at the same time, I feel like a baby because, like I said, dude, I'm like playing my first like festival next month. There are kids who start playing festivals when they're 15 years old.
Yeah.
And so to me, it might have, I walked into my first festival when I was 16 years old. So that was 10 years ago. And that's when I was like, wow, I really want to figure out how to do music. And at the time, you know, there were 18-year-olds who were playing every festival, touring all over the world. And I'm sitting in my mom's basement, you know, and I feel like there is a lot of power in being like, you know, it took me 10 years. It might take some people 20, you know what I mean? But that doesn't mean that you're not good enough or that doesn't mean that you haven't found your way. So anyways,
Not at all. I feel like I have the privilege now. I don't know. Yeah, I call it a privilege. I'm in both boats. I'm in a successful boy band that has, you know, gets 8 million streams a month off of our music, and that to me is super sick. But I'm even looking at it now of trying to figure out like, how do I scale this, right? At the same time, because
you mean Edwin?
No, I pretty much. Because a lot of those streams aren't on our new shit; it's our old shit. So we have, you know, 8 million monthly streams passively from people that, like we mentioned, know the songs, don't know pretty much, have 2-3 pretty much songs saved, but aren't going to do the hard work to go to Instagram and do the follow.
Crazy.
They're not going to fall in love with us. They just love the songs. And that's a blessing. I love that. Now we're dropping independently. We're trying to figure out how to utilize, you know, Release Radar and Discover Weekly to wrap those fans into a new bow with these new songs, which we have complete control over, fully produced, written by us. We have to figure that out somehow. But at the same time, I have my solo stuff that I'm starting from scratch, complete scratch. There's no crossover. The reason why there's no crossover, and if there is, it's probably like 100 fans that are dedicated, is because, like I mentioned, the majority of pretty much listeners are passive listeners. They're not diehard listeners. So if there are any diehard fans, they've already crossed over. That's not enough to make 8 million streams a month. So I'm playing both cards where I'm like, I can start fresh. I'm starting from no one knows who I am. Like, how do I make this work? Like, what is my tactic? Is it TikTok? And like, you know, I'm coming at it from the ground. And it's such a refreshing feeling because I can utilize the knowledge that I've built here to apply here. But also, I feel for that person who is sitting on 20 songs because they've either been locked in a label deal and they couldn't release music, or because they're too scared to release and fail, which at the end of the day, there's no such thing as failing if you don't quit. And I'm in that boat where I'm like, you know what? I can go on Sound and drop a song and then see what it does. I can drop a song and drop it on DistroKid because DistroKid is the fastest DSP distribution.
Use code Edwin15.
Please give me my check. I can do that and say fuck playlisting and just drop it on DSPs and hope for the best, and not be tied to this thing, because I haven't been tied to anything for such a long time. I've just been frustrated that I couldn't do it my way, and now that I can do it my way, I'm like, how the fuck? What is the way? I wish I had a team. I wish I had a marketing person. I wish I had this. I wish I had that. Like, it is scary, but as long as you believe that you make good music and you have a crew of people that believe in you, then just fucking drop the shit. Like, Picasso doesn't look at a canvas and go, I'm going to paint the best painting I've ever painted in my life, and it's going to sell for this much money. No, he paints it and hopes for the best, and then moves on to the next painting, and then whatever. Fucking, that's a bad analogy. Let's say Basquiat, because he's, more on this time. But, like, it's when the money starts rolling in that it starts getting scary, because it's like, oh, now I have something to live up to. Like, there's an expectation. I have to sell this painting for this much because, like, it's sold for this much. There's people that are buying my shit that are, like, actually going to get pissed if it doesn't sell for this much, because they're banking on me, too. That's when it gets scary. This is the fun time when it's like no one can tell you anything, and you shouldn't be tied to it. Like, you make a song and you love the song, that's fucking amazing, but, like, you're going to make good music. You're going to make a better song. Mm-hmm. And if you don't make a better song, someone's going to think that song is better than the song that you thought was the best. So you should just drop it and let it go and continue. It's like the whole, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Like, if it's sitting on your hard drive, it's not going to make any money. At least if it's sitting on DSPs or sitting on Sound, even if it's a penny, you made something off of.
Plus, bro, you never fucking know.
Never know. Like, fucking, who's the dude? St. John, his song, he had his song on 2016 or earlier. It wasn't until that remix happened that it took off, and now he's bigger than, he was already writing for Beyonce, whatever the case may be, but he wanted to be his artist. And it wasn't until somebody made a remix of a song that he already had released 4 years already out that his career started to take off.
Bro,
it's like,
there are countless examples. Like, Skrillex wasn't going to put Where Are You Now on the Jack U project, like, with Bieber. Bro, like, my homie James Young, he dropped Infinity, whenever that was, in, like, 2018. And then on TikTok, that song started having a moment in 2022. That song has, like, 800 million streams. And, like, that was just, like, he didn't know that when he put the song out. Obviously, like, he was in a good situation, like, when he put it out and whatnot. But still, bro, the song wasn't going, like, fucking catabolic like that. You know what I mean? So, yeah, you just never know this year, bro. And so, yeah, I agree. Like I said, I think that just most of it comes from a place of being scared. And honestly, I mean, even for me with, like, the Web3 side, there was a moment where I started to feel like, oh, shit, like, I'm dropping all these NFTs all the time. People are buying them and selling them for so much more and more. And I was like, oh, shit, like, I have, like, a value. Like, I have, like, a value that I have to upkeep. And I think in a lot of ways, it only lasted, like, a month. But there was a moment where I was like, oh, shit, like, I need to, like, be more curated, and I need it to be perfect, because then I realized, like, the reason that things did start to work for me is because of how little of a fuck I kind of gave, So that's, like, but it's hard, bro, because when things start working for you, you want it to keep going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You want to scale, and you want to, like, I'm the kind of person that if something does work, I look at it and go, why? And then how can I replicate this? But at the same time, it's like, my favorite part about making music, or why I feel like I made it to where I am, was because I didn't plan for it to happen, nor did I really want it to happen. Like, I was making music or singing on YouTube and making songs in my bedroom just because I loved doing it and I loved music. No intention to become a musician or do any of that. And it wasn't until I took control of my career that I feel like I lost that. And it's like the innocence of why I did it. I feel like I kind of lost it just in the industry of just in business and stuff. That going back to my desk and sitting there and trying to, like, make a song, I'm just, like, not inspired, because all week I've just been like, numbers, TikTok, this, that, show up, do this thing. And then it's like, can't find the creative part of it because I'm so locked into the business side of stuff. But trying to get back to that innocence of why you're here in the first place, what brought you here in the first place, and how to, surround yourself with people who also like are willing to bring that out of you. Like, I can't make music by myself as much as I've been doing a lot of songs with Mark Evans. He's on Sound.
Yeah, Mark.
Fucking
Mark's
sick.
great.
The last 2 songs that I dropped on DSPs are with him, and it's been the first time where I feel like I locked in with someone who kind of gets me there, and I can just be free and say fuck whoever's hitting me up, fuck leave like going anywhere. Like, I'm here for the next 6 hours. I trust him. He's taking my ideas and making them come to life. So this is great. And I feel like a kid again. I feel like I can just sing and walk around and just touch toys and let's add this and let's do this. And I don't know where this is going to go. And fucking we dropped a song and shit went off on TikTok, and now it has, for me, it's a lot. It's almost like 200,000 streams, which is, for me, is a lot by myself.
Bro, independently as a brand new artist, what the fuck?
Like my second drop, which is cool to me because I already know what that looks like, but it's happening to me. And I didn't do a big push. I didn't do this. I just made a song with someone who I fuck with. TikTok thought it was cool. My friends thought it was cool. People hit me up and say it's a cool song. And the numbers are showing for it. And it's just me. Now that I'm doing it, I'm like, okay, this is why I got into it in the first place.
Do you think that your need to like feel, I guess, like more like a kid, do you think that's where the Edwin project kind of started to come into your life?
Yeah, I think it was more like once we went independent, and David brought Prettymuch on,
to Sound, you mean?
To Sound, yeah. I was like, he hit me and he was like, if you want to drop your shit on here, we could do it.
Did he know you had a project?
He didn't know how to he knew I made music. Like, I have my own shit that I'm sitting on.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, fuck it, let's do it. And again, same thing. My mentality was priorities pretty much. If my music can live somewhere, I'm not ready to take it to the masses. Let me just test some stuff here and let I'm being told that I can make. I already see money coming in from the Prettymuch stuff on Sound, so I'm like, okay, if I can make a couple dollars here and there from my shit, then that's cool. At least I'm dropping stuff and making money off of it. That's cool. My girlfriend was kind of like iffy about it because she's very like traditional, and she's like, like Bruno Mars and Taylor Swift like made it to this, like it devalues them because and I'm like, I don't think you see it yet, but you will at some point. But I love her to death. And yeah, it was nice because I was getting the reaction, and I'm building a following on a different perspective, like collectors that are like telling, like David Fong.
Yeah, David Fong.
Like
David T. Fong. Shout out
bro,
David T. Fong. One of the best fans of music ever.
So sick. When we were,
good.
I think it was when you and Rio did the drop and we came over to your crib.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, I love how you tell stories with your music. And I was like, that's the coolest thing anyone's ever said to me ever. Like about my music. He was like, you're just a good storyteller. I was like, that's the coolest thing. And like my fans are gonna tell me that. I can shit on a plate and serve it, and they'll be like, this is the best thing ever. Because like it's about the image and the boy band and like who they fell in love with and who they've grown with for the last 6 years. And I love them to death, but like that's a different kind of love that they have. And in the sound stuff, I was like, I'm getting people who appreciate music a little bit more. I'm curating a fan base of like music listeners and collectors, which was a different thing for me. And it was just, again, the freedom to release, to be able to just not hold on to these things that I've been holding on to for so long. And I think that once I think like the sound stuff was getting hard to kind of hold on to, just because Prettymuch was I was getting wrapped up in this Prettymuch stuff. The talking song took off on TikTok as a snippet. I had this idea that, okay, if instead of making full songs, let me make choruses and promote the hook, or let me make like 2 lines, 3 lines, and just post that in hopes that maybe someone will sample it, A, or B, it takes off. So I was doing that with like 5 different things that I made, and talking was the one that kind of got like 100,000 views on TikTok, and I was like, whoa, it's people like this. And then I posted it again on a different clip, and then it got another 100,000 views. And I was like, whoa, people like this. So I hit up Mark, and I was like, hey, can you help me finish this? And we built it into an actual song and released it. But yeah, like I think because I knew that the TikTok people weren't gonna move over to sound to listen to it.
Yeah.
I was like, I gotta feed these people that are telling me, when is this dropping? What is this? What is this? What is this? And yeah, I dropped it, and now I'm kind of doing both at the same time. But I'm still developing myself as an artist, like my brand, like what my image is, what I stand for, like what I want to say, how I want to say it, like the clothes, my hair, like everything, how I'm being presented, because I still have to show up for Prettymuch. But at the same time too, like people are gonna start coming to my page for me, so letting my identity shine through at the same time.
It's really interesting to me because, like, one of the things you said was, like, okay, if I'm doing this shit on the Prettymuch side, why not just throw it up as Edwin, make a couple extra bucks, and see what happens?
Mm-hmm.
To me, like, that's how I would explain it to an artist, because to me, it's just a net new revenue stream.
Yeah.
To me, it's like something that had not previously existed. You want to make vinyls? Put vinyls. You want to do merch? Do merch. You want to do digital collectibles? Do digital collectibles. If you were like to explain it to like a big artist, or if you explain it to your girlfriend who is like trying to like get her head around it, or maybe disagreeing with like, well, here's how like traditional artists have done it, what do you say?
I say exactly that. I'm like, I can now make music. I can now make money from my music. And
then what's the problem? Then like that's to me like what I have a hard time like understanding is like, to me it's just you upload it. Like I don't know I don't know if it's because it's in crypto. Like I don't really understand, but it's like, yeah.
I think it's because the way that I think I presented it wrong. I think like the way that I came to it was I was like, I dropped this thing and raised this much ETH. I'm like, if I just do this more, then I'll probably be able to like pay my rent and like do, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think that she saw it as like a money grab. Mm-hmm. Like, you're just dropping music to make money. You're not dropping music because you want to drop music. Mm-hmm. So I think that because I went to it with like, started at sound and didn't like already start releasing my stuff as like DSP on DSPs, and it's kind of like presented myself as an artist first. Like, she's like, oh, you're a Web3 artist? Like, you're not an artist? And it was like this thing of like, don't devalue yourself and don't try to fit a niche. Like, be you. If you want to make money off music, great, say that. Don't like now wrap it up in a bow because it's doing well for you, kind of thing. And I get that. I understand that aspect. Because again, it's traditional. She's like, I just don't want you as an artist to like feel like you aren't the shit. You're the shit. No matter how you make it happen, you're the shit. So just be that. Don't try to savant it as if like, you know what I mean? And I get it. But at the same time too, yes, I do see the value in like music as like music traditionally, how it is, because there are number one songs, and having that, winning a Grammy is a thing. Mm-hmm. And then having a number one is a thing. Mm-hmm. But like also being the most minted, having the song being minted the most on sound is also a thing. Like, yeah. And I think that's also really, really cool to like have as an achievement. But it's just two different worlds that, you know, it's just harder to like see.
I think the difference is like at the end of the day, it does come down to just putting music out. Like that's the way that I view it, is like people who have Grammys make money off music. Yeah. They do, like, you don't make money getting a Grammy, but if you have gotten to a point where you're getting a Grammy, it is very likely that you are making money off music, whether it's your publishing catalog, advances, like whatever it is, like you're doing fine. Yeah. It's just like not as public, but to me, like that's the reason that I advertise it. I just think it's empowering as fuck. Like, if you were doing the same exact thing, except you weren't making money off of it. So like, let's say like you were just dropping it on SoundCloud, which is the same thing. Do you think that you would have had, it would have to make it about your girlfriend, but just in general, like, do you think that you would have gotten like different feedback?
Different feedback. Yeah, 100%.
That's crazy to me. Yeah, like that's so crazy to me. Like I feel like it's sick that artists can make money off their shit. Like, because people don't know how hard it is for people for artists to make a living. Yeah. Like, there are huge touring artists in music who have a very hard time making money.
Yeah.
Like,
and we were one of them. Like,
yeah, bro, everyone goes in obviously, because if you putting on a good show, my life, bro, it's easier for me. I'm a DJ. Like, I fucking pull up with the USB. Like, I have a lot less overhead than a band.
yeah.
And even still, it's really hard for me to make money.
Yeah.
Like, you guys have way more expenses. Like, I'm assuming you have a team that you bring out to shows. You probably have a visual, whatever it is. But
I
like,
have all the numbers already.
Yeah.
I literally memorize all the numbers.
Yeah, you have a fuck ton of overhead and shit. And so, like, to me, it's the fact that, like, I could put out more music. More fans can hear my music more often. I can build more fans by putting out more music and not just have shit, like, sitting on my hard drive. And I can make a couple $100 from every song. Like, to me, that's, I mean, I definitely hear the argument. But
it's like the argument is like, oh, so it's like, it should, again, the whole money grab thing. But it's like, I think it's because
the money is a byproduct of you putting out music.
Exactly.
Though. Yeah, that's how I think about it.
But yeah, it's I don't know. It's weird. I think, like, for me, I'm happy that I can release music and make money off of it. But that whole mentality of you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket. You shouldn't, like, egotistically put value onto something. Like, you should let the people decide. Like, that's what art is. It's not about, it is about you, but once it's out to the world, it's about everybody else. Like, it's not about you anymore. Like, the same, any piece of art. I think music is the only thing that is kind of like is looked at in this way of, or maybe I guess movies too, that, like, you know, you has to reach this statistic and number, and you have to go big and go home. And like, I always relate it back to paintings. I'm like, there's no way in hell that anyone is sitting in their fucking gallery or in their studio and they're painting this painting and they're like, this is the one that's gonna sell, unless it's a commission piece and they know that it's gonna sell for this much. Yeah. But even then, it's like, it's a fixed price, and someone gave you that job. It's like, that's the equivalent of, like, I'm gonna give you $50,000 to write a song for a Netflix show. Like, and that doesn't hold much value. I mean, yeah, it holds value. It's $50,000 worth of value, but, like, it doesn't hold value the way that, you know, you're valuing your songs. I think you should just release it and don't get too nitpicky about it. And then if you really love these 10 songs, then hold on to those 10 songs, make 10 more and drop those. And just go, like, drop those little by little and see what happens. Build a following, and then now you can release this project that now you have more eyes to look at this project. But whatever.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, it is like a very, like, chicken and the egg problem. Like, there are plenty of people that have lots of songs but don't necessarily have the eyes ready for the songs. But then there are plenty of other people that have, like, the eyes but
don't have songs.
Don't necessarily, like, just don't feel like they're comfortable enough, like, in a good place. Like J. Paul has all the fucking eyes on the planet. You know what I mean? Like, or, like, it's not that it's like it's not that he's a massive artist, but it's that I would say he has one of the most concentrated fans.
Oh my God, Coachella,
probably
bro.
ever. Yeah.
Were you there?
Were you there?
I was there. Holy fuck! The love. I've been to a lot of concerts.
Did you go first weekend or second weekend?
First weekend.
Nice.
The love, bro. Like,
tell me about that, because I wasn't there. I was in Japan. I was flying back.
Gosh, like, me and my girl, like, she introduced me, because she's half Indian, and I remember we were in the car. She was like, "You're gonna love this song, Straight Outta Mumbai," and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And then I did my deep dive as I always do, and I'm like, "No way, this guy was, like, skimped of his entire career. Like, this is," and I'm like, "Wait, 2012? Like, this is way ahead of its time for 2012. Like, what?" So I'm, like, already infatuated, but whatever. We go to Coachella, and dude, everyone there was there to see J. Paul. Like, there to see him.
And, like, not the person after, the person
no,
before.
Everyone there is there to see. And every single song, everyone is screaming. And then when he walked out, the applause, like, of, like, it just felt like, we're here for you. Like, we are here with you. We're here for you. We know what you stand for. We know what happened to you. This is your moment. Let's fucking go. And everyone had that same mentality. Everyone is screaming and cheering. Like, it's not like I'm screaming the song because I know the song. It's like, I'm screaming the song because this is the only time I'm probably going to be able to scream the song with this artist on the stage with these people. And we're just going to go for it. And, dude, love. It was just love. Like, you know, obviously I saw Frank Ocean for that minimum amount of time. But it was everything there was selfish. It was like, I'm here to see Frank Ocean. I need to see Frank Ocean, and I need to see this song, and I need to post this moment because Frank Ocean never posts, and I need this for me.
Yeah.
It was in that moment, everything was, we love you, J. Paul. This is for you. We love you. Let's go. And all he fucking did was walk around the stage and sing the song. He didn't do shit, bro. Stood there, sang. He would take a moment of break, and everyone's just clapping and screaming and clapping and screaming, and then he'd start the next song. And then when Straight Outta Mumbai goes on, everyone's just fucking raging, dude. And everything's packed like this.
Wow.
And the artist section, I was in the artist section.
Cool guy, Edwin.
I'm an artist. And yeah, filled with like artists. Like, not all the artist sections are usually filled with like dope artists.
Yeah.
Everyone that knew or like knew what the fuck was going on was there. And I was just like, all the rules were just at the door. Everyone's just raging. It was so cool.
Bro,
so cool.
I was flying to Japan for a show. Artist. When this was happening, and I'm out here like scavenging because they didn't live stream it.
Yeah.
So I'm out here like scavenging. I never buy Wi-Fi on flights, bro. Like I like refuse to buy Wi-Fi on flights because it's such a fucking scam. And on this flight, the Wi-Fi was actually good. I bought it, and I probably spent 4 hours like in the Discord because like trying to figure out like or not the Discord, the Reddit, like trying to figure out like, you know, r/J Paul is a dark place, bro. Like, bro, those fans were fucking rabid. Like, it was getting so dark in there, and like, I'm like on Twitter refreshing every 10 seconds, like trying to find like. It's not that I'm definitely a fan. Like, I know like a lot of the words to like, or like the mumble words on a lot of bait ones. Like, I'm familiar. You know what I mean? But like, I just remember so vividly, like in that moment, how fucking much of like a mysterious lure it is to have this guy pull up that was his first show ever. Was playing Coachella. And like, I know it sounds like a fucking like Bikram yoga stretch, bro, but I do feel like this is gonna sound crazy, but I do feel like Dropping on Sound is like somewhat similar. Obviously, before that gets like clipped, like obviously like I think that nothing beats a live show experience. I think that ticket sales are like the biggest metric of true fandom. So I'm not saying that J. Paul is like sound, but what I am saying is that it is kind of like we're here for you and we want to support what the fuck you're doing. And it's a different scale. It's not hundreds of thousands of people, or, you know, whatever, 10,000 people that were at that show that knew every word, that like loved it. But I do feel like there are the songs, and then there are the stories behind the people. And when you have the context of the stories behind the people, you have a lot more deeper appreciation for the songs. And I think that the reason that there was love behind J. Paul's show is not only the songs, which are undeniable, but the story. It's stories behind the people. And I feel like, to me, again, it's a hot take, but I do feel like Dropping on Sound is somewhat similar to the J. Paul Coachella set.
Well,
for that reason.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I guess if I were to make that comparison, it would be because
I know it's a hot take, bro. I know
it would be because, like I said, I didn't feel the love for my music until I started to have conversations with people on my Telegram, who collected my sound stuff. Because I'm having conversations with producers who, you know, obviously mint on sound, but are collecting, and, you know, collectors, and the conversations aren't about like, what did you eat today? Like, or like, are you going on tour? Or like, I saw you in a meet and greet. It's like about the music. So I feel like I'm developing, like, you know, I'm having a conversation that I actually want to have, like, with a fan. Not to say I don't like talking to my fans. I love my fans, but like, it's, you know, I don't like to talk about myself. I like to talk about my music because that's way easy. That's way easier of a conversation. I could talk about why I made that song, and I guess that's a gateway into like who I am. But no, I don't feel comfortable talking about myself all the time because that's what I do as a living. So yeah, to that point, like, I could see probably like in the Reddit, like,
it's not 1-to-1. It's not a 1-to-1
comparison. But
I gotta work out the kinks.
But that love for it is like, it's just different. Like, there's not much to grasp onto with Jai aside from his story and the music. And the story is probably a page long. You can read it in like probably 2 paragraphs. So it's like there's not really much to grasp onto besides that. You have the music, and you fall in love with the music too. And that's the music is probably like 80% of why you fall in love with it. This just kind of got you in the door. So that to me is the equivalent of that. Like, you know, the music ultimately does come first to a degree. You have to make fucking great music.
What I will say. That
was a crazy hot take.
Bro, listen. What I will say is this. I think that the music always comes first, undoubtedly.
But like you said, with sound, you can now say I was there first. Like, correct, I showed up.
Yeah. What I think, though, on top of all this is, like, music is always going to come first. I get that. Mm-hmm. My favorite artists are people that I feel like I want to be friends with.
True.
Like, there are some people who I don't give a fuck what they drop because I already know that they're great. I already know that the music's great. I just think they're cool fucking people. True. And I buy into them just as much as I buy into their music. Like, two examples I can think of are, like, Skrillex and Lil Yachty. Mm-hmm. Skrillex just is a fool. Like he's just a fucking silly man. You know what I mean? Like, every encounter I've heard about this guy is he's just, like, always the fucking happiest, always, like, running around, like, being, like, not being a degenerate, but just, like, most encouraging person in the studio. Just, like, he's, like, the nice guy. You know what I mean? Like, he's, like the nice, like, crazy, you know, like, a little bit of a screw loose. But, like, I buy into him because I just like listening to him talk. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, and obviously he's goated. He's done so many incredible things in music. Lil Yachty, like, bro was, you know, like, he was Little Boat, like, for the longest time. Like, it was just, like, he wasn't, like, a meme artist if you listen to his music, but it was, like, being a fan of Lil Yachty and was somewhat memeified because of the personality that he put out there.
Yeah.
Right? And, I mean, even, like, I'm thinking about this for the first time, but Joji is also, like, another good example of this. But, like, Yachty put out a fucking psychedelic rock album produced by Jake Portrait from, like, Unknown Mortal Orchestra. And I have not heard too many people that did not fuck with that project. Like, most people that I personally love that project. Mm-hmm. Like, I thought it was, like, so, like, brave and shit, you know. But I think the reason that project did really, again, I don't know the numbers on it. So when I say did really well, I probably live in somewhat of an echo chamber. Yeah. But just, like, so many people whose musical opinion I value a lot really, like, fuck with that project. The reason that I think that it's done really well in that kind of capacity is because people fuck with him so much that like it's not like the music was secondary. I really love the music on the project, but I think like, because people fuck with him so much, like, it made it so much easier for them to like that project. You know what I mean?
And I think you can also, like, and that's, I think, the goal, right? I think that's ultimately the goal that every artist wants to get to, is, like,
because it gives you, like, prime flexibility to do whatever the fuck.
Just fucking, make it, and then once you're there, like, just do whatever the fuck you want to do. But I think, like, if you, and that's why I think the hit mentality isn't sustainable, because if people are only falling in love with the music and can't connect to the artist, then, like, not to shit on anyone, I swear to God, but, like,
you shit on me.
Let's take, like, a BB Rexa, for instance, like, hits on hits on hits, and songs that she's vocaled, like, EDM records that she's been on, like, her own records. But, like, when do you ever hear anybody go, I love BB Rexa? Like, I'm going to a BB Rexa concert. Like, I don't know how many shows she does, but, like, she's probably, like, a sick artist, but she probably doesn't have the branding on point as much as she has the records on point, and probably doesn't allow for her fans to, like, connect with her as much as they probably just connect with the songs because they get played on the radio. They're kind of getting you're forced to listen to them, and they're great songs.
That's why I feel like that 150 show or 150 person show is, like, such a different experience. Again, BB Rexa has played stadiums.
Yeah.
I have not. But I think that, like, a lot of those moments, because I have been to a lot of those stadium shows just as a fan, is, like, there's, like, the one or two songs, you know, there's, like, maybe 1 to 3 songs. It's, like, everyone knows, unless it's Drake, because Drake is just has 1,000 fucking hits. But, like, there's, like, the 1 to 3 songs that everyone knows, and then there's kind of the songs that people are just kind of, like vibing to, but not necessarily, like, know every word to. And I just feel like there is a lot of power in, like, having that 100, 300, 700, whatever people that genuinely know, like, the smallest song on your second project you ever dropped, or, like, the interlude track, or, like, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think the most important, like advice that I kind of wasn't told but kind of was picked up on in the beginning of my career was Ariana Grande is like the way that she interacted with her fans and like made it so personable. She knew fans by first name. Like she had a street team that she would talk to, and like the connection of like a fan to the artist thing. Like once you have that, like it's kind of like a bond. And like I said, I had that or have that with my fans. So it's beautiful because like I whatever I drop, they'll listen to it and they'll like go to bat for me, which is nice. Having that made me long for, a crowd of people that fuck with my artistry and why I do the decisions that I make. You can't, have it all. So fucking whatever. But I think that the most important thing that you can do in the beginning stages is, have a connection with your fan base. Like if it is a 150 show, meet every single person. Like have a meet and greet. Not even if it doesn't have to do with money. Like don't pay. Matt Healy from 1975 said that he will never charge over $40 on a meet and greet, some number like that. Because he's like, why should I overcharge for my fans to meet me? Like they're already here. They're the reason why I'm here. Like I don't need the money. I don't need an extra this much. Like I'm doing what I love to do. I do it for this amount of money anyways. Like having more money would be nice, but I'm gonna just do the same thing that I did last year, next year. So like, whatever. Fuck it. If you have an extra hour and a half, meet your fans before, meet your fans after, connect with them, like make them so rock solid so that when next show, when they bring a friend or two and you meet those fans and those fans bring a friend or two, like it's not the music's great because we love music, but like you have your street team, you have your core fans that are going to bat for you no matter what. This whole ego of like, I'm an artist so I can't, there has to be some distance. Like fuck that. They're already getting into so much of your life because you post so much on social media that it's like the right thing to do and the best thing to do is connect with that fan, just so that at least like they already feel like they know you. Like the fans will, like there's been so many things that happen in our careers.
Wow, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. They'll be like, he'll never do that. I'm like, you don't know me realistically. Edwin would never do that. He would never say that. Or he writes his caption like who out of the Prettymuch group wrote this tweet? Oh, it must have been Brandon because he types like this. It's like, you don't know me. You think you know me, and you actually fully believe you know me. And when
that's just living on the internet though. That's,
but the thing is, like, when I walk up into that meet and greet, you're a stranger, and I am, I'm like a family member at this point. So it's like, for me to have an ego towards you about like, oh, you're a fan, and I have to like, oh, don't look at me, like, that's so fucked up. A, and B, like, you're gonna get lost in the sauce so fast because there's always going to be another artist who's willing to put in more work than you to just make that connection happen, who probably makes, better music than you. So, like, I think if I had to give any advice is, build your brand, know what you stand for, and then once you open the door for fans to be allowed in and kind of digest your world and be a part of your lifestyle and your experience, say hi, connect with them, just to make sure that they stick around, because there are so many fucking artists out there and so many dope artists, so many sick artists, great singers, great dancers or whatever, who don't do that. And that's enough of a difference for this person to be like, actually, out of the 100,000 artists that I listen to a day, I'm going to put this one at the top of the list or at the top 10 of the list, or I'm going to spend this much money on a show. Because I know that they're willing to say hi to me at the end of it. Why would I go to this person's show when I can go to this person's show? I might get a picture with this person. I have a 90% chance of getting a picture with this person, so let me go to that show.
Words of wisdom. Edwin, appreciate you, bro. Thank you so much for popping on.
Thanks for having me, man.
You're the GOAT. Good
You're
shit.
You're the GOAT.
Clammy hands.